Now, let's get into specifics, right? Because there's no context behind these numbers, and that's what we want to do. We want to bring out the truth, and we want to expose the lies and show what these figures really mean. Now, specific welfare programs like cash assistance and housing are actually used more by native households than immigrant households.
White Americans.
Could be probably the majority, but it can also be, African American. It could be some Native Americans, just people that are here, born here, natural citizens. Now, a National Academy study found less than 50% of immigrant households use Medicaid and food stamps. So again, once we get into specifics and we take out the reduced lunches and the free lunches, you start seeing, hey, it's not what they're saying. It doesn't add up. Another thing to note is that qualified immigrants are generally banned from receiving welfare benefits in their first 5 years. So if you're a permanent resident and you're here legally, right, if you have the right to be here, you still got to wait 5 years to be able to receive some of these benefits, to qualify for them.
Yeah, and what are you doing in that time period? What do you think they're doing?
Working.
Exactly.
Working, you got to make a living.
Yeah. Exactly. So they just think that we're just committing crimes, doing stuff for the cartel, doing the cartel's dirty work.
If you look at the movies, that's the impression that you get, right? That's if you look at movies, like the only parts that Mexicans play are typically drug dealer, cartels, or they're like farm workers in the movie.
Yeah, or the cholo, the gangster. The cholo, the gangster, yeah. Hector, you know what I mean? That's who they get, and then they somehow always have a connection to the cartel, that's not even true. All Mexicans don't have a connection exactly, right, with cartels. So
it's not like that. It's not even close. Now, here's an interesting fact for you, and we're going to touch again how they were talking about households with children. Now, the Center for Immigration Studies, which again, that's the study that President Trump and his administration were using as an example, its analysis, it limits its analysis to families with children. So they're not including all households. They're just specifically including households that have children. Why do you think that is?
So the numbers are there.
Exactly. They're cherry picking. Exactly. They're cherry picking numbers. So to whatever favors, whatever their agenda is, right? Whatever they're trying to push, and whatever numbers that go to the contrary or disprove what they're saying, they're omitting them. So they're not using that. And that's why we're out here and bringing out the truth to people and pointing out what actually they're talking about.
Yeah, what they're talking about. Mm-hmm.
Now, another thing is the data does not account for differences in income. So if you control for income level and consider all households, that argument disappears. It vanishes. It does not exist. So let me explain to you what they're talking about with control for income. Yeah, so what they're saying is they're not capping it. Now, if you think about it, most immigrants that come in, they're going to have a lower income than your average native-born U.S. citizen. So what they're saying is they're including native citizens that make millions of dollars. They're including the top 10%. And of course, those people, they don't even qualify for these programs. So of course, they're not going to use them. Mm-hmm. Now, when you put a cap to where it's 200% above the poverty line, the numbers actually are dead even. There might be a difference of a couple of percentages on them, but they are pretty much dead even between welfare benefits that are being used by immigrants and welfare benefits that are being used by native citizens. So again, it's being deceptive. It's being deceptive. Of those benefits are there. They're in place for poor people, right? They're in place for people who are of low income.
That need the help.
They need the help, exactly. So why are you including in here people that don't need the help, that can't even qualify for them?
Yeah.
That's another way that another deceptive.
Yeah, that can survive without needing that type of help.
Now, the Cato Institute, right? They got some good studies, and here's one that I'm gonna bring up for you. And another interesting fact that they found. So the new study produced by the Cato Institute examined data from 2016 on programs for the poor, such as Medicaid and food stamps, and also entitlement programs. So that's one thing that, again, the Trump administration, they're not touching into entitlement programs. And the reason is because most immigrants, they're not going to qualify for them anyways. They're not going to be using them. So why are they going to throw those numbers in there, right? Now, the Cato Institute, of course, they're being fair about it. And they are putting some context behind those numbers. One thing that they found so far is entitlement programs, a large portion of the welfare state, or they account for a large portion of the welfare state. So the entitlement programs actually account for twice as much as all programs, welfare programs for the poor. So again, they're not using these numbers because that's a larger portion, that's a bigger chunk of the pie, right? So they're not going to be using that. They're only showing you the slice that benefits their agenda. Now, what they found is that immigrants use 39% fewer welfare entitlement benefits per person than native benefits, than native-born Americans. So again, now we get into why are they just using numbers for households with children? Because when you instead of limiting it to households and you go per person, the numbers do a 180, and now it's actually, you see it the other way around. Now the people that are actually using more of those benefits are native born citizens. So again, they're being deceptive. They're only using information that's gonna go towards whatever they want to push. Now, immigrants are less likely to use individual programs and receive smaller benefits when they do. Adult immigrants are 47% less likely to receive Social Security retirement benefits than native-born citizens. The average amount that immigrants receive, so when they do get the benefits, the average amount is $1,427 less than the average native-born, which amounts to 48% fewer Social Security retirement benefits than natives. Another example is supplemental security income, or SSI, right? I mean, you've heard of SSI. The average migrant adult receives 22% less in SSI benefits than the average native-born adult. So again, now once we start throwing context into it, you start seeing, hey, wait a second, this is not what they're saying. It's actually the opposite of what they're saying. So again, it's deceptive tactics that are being used, and that's why we're going to call them out on that. Now, this is something that caught my attention, all right? So the number of illegal immigrants that are apprehended on the Southwest is actually down by 82% from 2017 compared to 2000. So what they're saying is they're catching 82% less immigrants at the border in 2017 than what they did in the year 2000. And this is a good proxy to measure the amount of people that are coming in. And I'll give you an example of why. So
the numbers are dropping.
Yeah, the number of people that are coming in, that are trying to come in, is dropping. And
when did that start?
So from 2000 to 2017, you have an 82% drop.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't just we have Trump and all of a sudden these numbers drop. They've been dropping since before.
They've been dropping, yeah. So they've been on a steady decline since the year 2000.
Yeah, like a whole decade before he even got into office. The process was already happening.
It was already, yeah. And it's because of the tougher immigration laws that are happening.
Yeah.
And that's why people are just it's not benefiting them as much to come in here and risk getting deported, because they're coming here to work. They're only able to work for a little bit, and then you get deported. It's not, people got to pay to come over here. Usually they pay a coyote, right? They pay somebody to bring them over here.
Thousands.
And they pay thousands. So if they're coming over here and they're getting deported because of ICE raid, it's not going to make sense for them to be coming over here at all.
Yeah, right.
The Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy in 2016 estimated that 11 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S., or that there was 11 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. compared, and 8 million of those are part of the U.S. civilian workforce. So we got a lot of people coming in here, or a lot of people that are here, 11 million, and the majority of them, 8 million of them, are part of the workforce. They're working, these unwanted jobs, which is typically agricultural jobs, dairies, things of that nature, right?
Because who else is really going to work those jobs? There really isn't anybody else who's going to work.
It's not a desirable job.
Yeah, it's not a desirable job. There's no benefits to it.
Now, what these illegal immigrants do is they pay 11.74 billion a year in federal taxes, as well as Medicaid and Social Security, which they don't get back, right? They can't, they don't have a valid Social Security number, so they can't apply for, get the taxes, right? They can't get the taxes, so they're paying in and they're never getting anything back from it. So again, Trump administration isn't throwing out these numbers because they don't want you to know about that. But we do. Yeah. And so it's very important that people educate themselves.
Yes, because we work very hard. We pay our taxes, whether you do your taxes or not. When you buy a soda, you buy some chips, you pay the same amount as everybody else. So you pay your taxes. And where do they go? Not to our communities, not to our kids, not for our future.
Exactly. So everyone, we're hoping that you don't just take our word for it. We got links below. We're going to provide some of the articles that we got our information from, and we encourage everybody to do your homework, do your research.
Yes, dig deep, dig deep, because it's not for you, it's not for us, it's for our kids, and for our kids' kids, because we have to remember that we're not going to be seen any different than what our forefathers were seen as when they first came into this country. So we got to keep that in mind.
That's right. It's for our future.
It's for our future. It's for our kids. If you care about your kids, this is something we need to look into.
So again, thank you everybody for watching Exposicion. I'm Hugo Vargas.
Alejandro Galvan.
And we'll see you next time.